Welcome to the hottest real estate topics on the planet, keeping you up to date with all the creative ways to buy and sell real estate without bank qualifying, so anyone can build real income starting today. Here is another great show with Dealmaker Bill and Pete the Rookie.
All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies.
All right, rookies and rookettes, line up.
Here we go. Episode number 239, Peter, which is right up your alley 2 weeks in a row. And I have news for you. I think it's going to be 3 weeks in a row.
Oh, yeah, same theme?
Rookies Dictionary for Creative Real Estate Terms Most Needed and Wanted, Part 2.
2 or 3?
We're on part 2. We did part 1 last week. We're going to do part 2 this week, and we're going to do part 3 next week.
Okay.
Okay?
Boy, I sure hope the rookies and rookettes appreciate this. It isn't flashy and sexy, but damn it, when the rubber hits the road, you better know what rubber means and what road means.
Exactly. So, here's a description. Looking to escape from the quicksand of not exceptionally... I'm going to do that again. Looking to escape from the quicksand of not doing exceptionally well at being a creative real estate investor? The only way to become a genius in creative real estate investing and be free is to speak the language accurately, flawlessly, and with complete fluency. And the mistake 99% of all real estate investors make is they learn how to speak our dialect by listening to others speak at seminars, in books, on videos, listen to podcasts, etc. This leaving the door wide open, Peter, to us, leaving the door wide open to use these terms to impress listeners when they themselves really don't know what these terms are or phrases mean.
Yeah.
And in most cases, because of this type of education or lack thereof, it adds years and a lot of expense to the creative real estate investor's education and success. But because this topic of understanding the terms and phrases sounds boring and it's not sexy and it's just not taught because of that, because the gurus can't make their money with it. Which is why this industry is so damn confusing when first getting involved. This podcast, along with episode number 239, will give you the quantum leap you have been seeking for so long. So listen many times and take good notes for reference when you need help.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen squared.
Okay, there you go. All right, so before we get started, know that we do this recording for the podcast with a live stream every Thursday morning Eastern Standard Time at about 9:30 a.m. Now, Peter and I are a couple of old entrepreneurs and old guys, and we kind of beat to our own drum. So sometimes it's 9:15, sometimes it's 9:45. The good thing for our listeners, Peter, is that we set the streaming for 9:30, and we only have a 10-minute window to get in there. So
that's right. Or is it the window the window closes?
Yeah, if we don't do the deadline, then we got to do the whole damn thing all over again. I got to type everything, and I get a little grumpy when I got to do that. So we're usually pretty good on the 9:30 thing.
Hey, Bill, right now it's 9:30. Right now.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
Now.
Exactly.
We're good.
So the reason why I tell you that is because we live stream on YouTube and we live stream on Facebook, and I have a big screen in front of me. So if you are on YouTube and you are on Facebook, when we are live, you can actually put in the comment section of either platform your questions, and I see them and we respond to them, which is what you hear throughout the weeks when we're talking to people, because they're actually asking questions in those sections.
Yeah, we have a live audience in the studio.
Yeah, there you go. So also you should know that in the description of wherever you're watching us or hearing us, there is a link there that has a bunch of free stuff. There's 25 or 26 free things that you can get to help you get started as a real estate rookie. There's forms, there's documents, there's checklists, there's videos, there's all kinds of stuff. So you just go over there to that link. It's right in the description here. Last thing is make sure you, wherever you're listening to us, whatever podcast platform or social media, make sure you subscribe to us so you know that we are live and you don't forget about us, and you catch us every week. We are at episode number 239. We've got 1.5 million downloads, so we're definitely out there communicating, and I want to make sure you get that. And then if you so desire, please leave us a review, good, bad, or ugly. Leave us a review wherever you're listening, so we can hear your comments and make adjustments or keep doing the things that you like. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So now that's out of the way, all the legal beagle crap. Let's get down to the podcast.
Okie doke.
You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Here we go. Genius is the... Come on, Peter, you're interrupting me. Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated down to the simple.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one.
Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated down to the simple. If you could have this genius when it comes to creative real estate investing, how do you think it would affect your life?
That's a good one.
What if you actually excelled or made a quantum leap in life because you were able to increase your knowledge and growth rapidly? And with this new knowledge, have the ability to put into effect what you are thinking every time. Whoa.
Yeah.
What you are thinking. How many times do you think something and you try to go put it in the physical universe and it doesn't quite go that way?
Oh, heck, it's easy to think of stuff, but it doesn't that magically snap the finger and happen, does it? No.
And
Sometimes.
the more entrepreneurial you are and the more things you try, the more you realize this is a excelled talent. Like a straight wire between your thoughts and the physical universe without any diversions or distractions or confusions. Zap, right?
Yeah.
Done. Imagine that little magic wand, the Harry Potter magic wand that he doesn't know how to use when he's little, and he grows up to learn real good.
Yeah.
Right? Sounds simple, right?
Well, yeah.
Let me see here. So then why do so many creative real estate investors have trouble doing this? Taking their creative real estate thoughts and quickly turn them into big, fat profit checks on demand. Why do they have this trouble? Let me demonstrate. So if you're listening to me right now, and you can, get a piece of paper. If you can't do this, do it mentally in your head, which is not as good, but get a piece of paper, okay? Turn it sideways so it's landscape, right? And grab a piece of paper and pencil. And let's do as I request. So first thing I want you to do is draw a picture of a house. Put some windows and doors on that house. Now put a fence around it. Add some birds flying in the sky. How about the sun so we can make it a nice day in this picture? Draw sun up there. How about we add a driveway? Okay, to one side of the driveway, add a dub.
A what?
Did you add the dub?
A dub?
No? Why?
What the hell's a dub?
Maybe it's because you don't know what a dub is. Well, a dub is Scottish for the word pond.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you know what a dub is, can you draw it? Of course. My point in this, my point is, this is how production and results get thwarted every single day. And it's so subtle. When it happens, most don't even realize that it's happening. And what actually happens is if you don't understand what we're talking about today, what you'll do is you'll make shit up. Like what you think a dub is.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I first talked to my ex-wife, which, by the way, was the beginning of our demise, when I realized this. I was trying to explain to her when I read, I would not be able to comprehend words, and I found this technology that, like, I can, like, figure out what the words mean. Right?
And you're explaining that to her?
Yeah. And you know what I said to her? You know what she said to me?
What?
Oh, you don't need to do that. Just look at the words before the word and look at the words after the word, and you'll figure out what it means by the context.
Yeah.
So in other words, she was making up definitions of the word in the context.
Yep.
What happens if you make up the wrong word? Right? What happens then?
That's really common advice from teachers to kids. And I always tell people, how would you like your neurosurgeon to do that? Or your car mechanic to be freaking guessing that what the words mean? Or your lawyer, how would you like them to be guessing? Come on.
Yeah. So when most people run against a word they don't understand, they just make shit up in their own mind. This type of ignorance is the demise of our society in my world, believe it or not.
Yeah.
This type of ignorance is the demise of our society. And if you wanted to go off into the political pond, we can go back as far as the early 1900s when Rockefeller publicly announced that he did not want to have any money or banking type education in the school systems because he didn't want people to know what he was doing.
I never heard that. He did that one too? I've heard a number of things he did. He pulled that He pulled that one
In
too.
the early 1900s, yeah.
Not a surprise. That was one evil man.
And I think I read that in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's where I read that. I'd have to go look, but I think that's where it is.
Yeah, I got that one. I don't remember that piece, but it's easy to miss details in a book that big. But man, that guy did some nasty stuff. In the old days, he used to smash printing presses.
Yeah.
Nowadays we restrict information because it's bad. You shouldn't have to. You poor people shouldn't have to hear this information. Boy, oh boy, nothing new. Just different ways of doing it.
So, at the sake of putting my personal beliefs on the line and being attacked, which will happen in the support tickets, because it's happened before, I figured out what my demise was with the election and all the things that happened. The first thing that I figured out, and this is not part of the podcast, I'm just telling you this because I'm talking to you. The first thing I figured out is that I feel like we went from suppression to oppression. So suppression is when somebody or something's trying to hold you down. They're trying to keep you from going up.
Yeah.
Right? Or doing better.
Yeah.
And it could be like a building, it could be like your car, it could be a person, it could be anything that is suppressing you from getting you what you want. Okay, it could be anything.
Yep.
Oppression is when that happens from someone that controls it, like the boss. Like you have an oppressed boss. So your boss is suppressing you, but you really can't do anything about it.
Right.
Right? You really can't do anything because he makes the rules. The guy with the gold makes all the rules. So that's oppression. When you have that, like in your world and you can't do anything about it.
Yep.
And you physically can't do anything about it, even if you tried. Right? So I feel like we went from a suppression to an oppression, but even more than that, I feel like, this is my opinion, and if you want to attack me in the support tickets, then go right ahead, because I'm not going to change my mind. But I feel like I physically watched on TV in front of my own eyes, like Mitch O'Connor or O'Connell, whatever his name is.
O'Connell.
And his buddies and all of the rest of them actually throw in our face this underlying message. We're the elitists, and you little people don't need to know what we're doing because we know what we're doing and you don't. And they tore down what I believe in. And what I believe in very strongly is we the people. I believe in we the people. And they pretty much put their big middle finger up against we the people and let us know that they're, because of their money status, because they're elitist people, that we the people don't really need to know that. Okay? So I'm going back to the Rockefeller days because that's the way he felt. The herd shouldn't know that.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And if you want power not in someone else's hand but in yours, you limit the knowledge. Lie, restrict, limit, old tricks.
So because of my core beliefs of this, and they are core beliefs because, believe me, I've had some amazing debates over some big fat cigars and some Gatorade because they drink alcohol, I don't, right? So the amazing thing is that I have learned so much during the Trump presidency for the simple fact that whether you like him or hate him, he brought all this to the public eye. He brought this elitist stuff and this criminal stuff, whether it's his side or their side, it doesn't matter. He brought this to the public eye. He brought things that we have never seen before.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I respect him for that. Okay? Now there's other things I may not respect, but I do respect him for that. You can't fight that. He brought out the fake news and he brought out, all the crimes, a lot of the crimes. At least he made you think, are those crimes really happening? Whether you believe it or not is another story. But at least he made you think, was that happening?
Yep.
Okay? So I feel like the only way that you could beat this oppression or suppression is to flourish and prosper. They don't like that. When they can't keep you down, it drives them batty.
Yep.
They spin in. They don't know what to do. So my share or my contribution to that flourish and prosper is all the things that I do in real estate. Right? So I believe me, I could keep going on in my little corner just doing my deals. I could keep hiring my VAs and acquisition managers and keep buying houses and keep doing what I do. I'm very comfortable at it. You know that. You see it all the time, Peter.
Sure.
My coaching guys, they see it all the time. I have partners, they see it all the time. I have money guys, they see it all the time. It's not fake what I do. I make a lion's share, in other words, a bulk of my money from real estate transactions. Right? And sure. I live a decent life because of it. Sometimes I have a lot of money, sometimes I have none, but I live a decent life. Right?
Yep.
My point is that the only way we can beat this is to flourish and prosper. So I put my foot up, just like Mr. Trump did on a much larger scale. He went out there and put his neck on the line so he could bring to the American people what he thought they should see. He brought the behind the scenes stuff to light. I feel like we do the same thing. That's why I have 239 episodes of Flipping Houses for Rookie podcast with, 1,300,000 downloads or 1,250,000 downloads. And And I've completely funded it, and thanks to you, because you volunteer your time every single Thursday, right? You don't get paid for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I do it because I believe the only way that any average American can build extraordinary wealth is through real estate. And I completely, utterly, absolutely believe that real estate is made to take money out, not put money in. If you're doing it the opposite way, you're putting money in to get money out, you have not educated yourself, or you don't know the ins and outs of how this game works, and you're doing it backwards. Okay? So I'm going to get off my tangent here in a second. I just want people to understand that the only way that you will excel in this business the way myself or others, and believe me, I'm a small fish in this arena, very small fish, right? I'm a little tiny tadpole, okay, in this arena. The only way that I have found that you could actually succeed and do extraordinarily well in this business is to understand the words and the phrases, understand the contracts, understand some of the law.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to be a genius to do it. Things like what we're doing now that is not very popular, like describing these words and making it so that you can understand them, is the quantum leap that you are looking for. It is not the flashy software. It's not the shiny object with the VAs. It's not some special magic word or phrase that you say to a customer that all of a sudden they go, oh, I should do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not any of that. It's not all the flash. It's the stuff that we're doing in these going to be 3 episodes, which is 238, 239, and 240. Okay, so
yeah.
I've said my point. Just like my little example of which isn't mine, by the way, I got it from Sean Clouden, who wrote the book. What is it? The Magic of Words.
Power of Words.
Power of Words.
Power of Words.
Yeah. So that's a great book. You should go read it. Go Google it. His name is Sean, S-E-A-N, Clouden, C-L-O-U-D-E-N. And it's The Power of Words. That's where I got it from.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The thing that I'm telling you is that is the foundation you need. And I don't care. I don't even care if you're a lawyer, because in episode number 238, we started off the podcast by me telling you the reason why we're doing this is because I asked my lawyer what a word meant in a contract that he wrote, and he couldn't give it to me.
That was funny. That was funny.
And as far as I'm concerned, a lawyer is an index of words and has the ability to compile them to protect you in sentences and paragraphs, to be able to protect you, technically, legally.
That's why people don't like contracts. It's too much gobbledygook, and you trust your lawyer will explain it to you.
There's too many misunderstood words by you in there, and you don't comprehend it.
Right, and we were told not to look them up. Bill, I don't know if you know this, but I'm a teacher, of course, and my students tell me how school is. They are told not to look up words.
Right.
My student once raised his hand reading something. He says, can I go to get a dictionary at the back of the classroom? She said, no. She said, no, don't. I'm not making this up. That was last year.
Jessie, my daughter, who's 28 years old, she is a do-gooder, tree hugger, absolute do-gooder from the word go. Okay? She went to St. Joe's Catholic College for 4 years. Okay? So God bless her soul, because she means well. So she's become some executive director in the Wallingford Coalition, which means this group helps the city. They get grants, and they help the town of Wallingford. It's not a city, the town of Wallingford, that has a 40,000 people population, and they help them with all their projects, right? She tells me last night that there's a park, Doolittle Park, down by the YMCA.
Yeah.
That they've been commissioned to go down there because the kids, middle school kids, are down there doing drugs. And after, she said after a complete meeting, with officials from Wallingford, what they have found is these kids are not in school. So they go down there and they play loud music and they smoke their weed and they do whatever, they drink their alcohol, and they gather down there almost on a daily basis down in the back of the corner of the park, and there's debris everywhere, and they just are a bunch of slobs and they just trash the park.
Man, that's sad.
Right? And it's
That's
because they are not in school.
And why are they not in school? Because they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand. They don't like it.
It's the pandemic.
Well, they're
It's
not in
the
school because of that. But
Yeah.
I'm saying they're not home studying away because they're not getting any help, and they don't know how to study. They don't know. They're told not to use a dictionary, so they're sitting there. They can't do it. The heck with it. They close a laptop and they leave the house.
Right.
Sad.
So if you actually excelled in this business, it would be because you were able to use these phrases, understand them. You would be able to, let me see here. You would understand the words. You'd be able to use the phrases, all that kind of stuff, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I want to punch up one point. I think you're saying it, but I want to make this extremely clear because I run into this. I teach music, and if you don't understand something, you cannot play the songs. You cannot do it. So in any subject, when you can't do something, you don't know how, or you don't want to try it, or you're afraid to do it, you don't think you can, all that stuff, you don't understand. Don't tell me you understand how to do it and you can't. So all the guys sitting home not doing some parts of this business or at all, you just don't understand one thing, 10 things, 50 things. I don't know how many. But that's the key. And that's what you're kind of saying, but I really want to punch it. It took me a while to figure that one out. If you can't do something, you don't get it. Go study it. Go look up the words. Check the meanings we're doing today. That's what's behind it. And you're going to say no, but you don't know. I've done this for 30 years teaching, and I see it every time. Then students go, oh, I get it now, and they smile, and they go do something. Real estate, music, whatever it is. I've taught many subjects. It's wonderful to understand, and then you can do stuff. That's the key. And that's what you're saying.
Okay, good. So we spent way too much time, 26 minutes doing this. I expected to do this in 5 minutes. Okay, so enough of that. Let's carry on with the podcast and some more terms and phrases so that you could be free in life and actually use this language accurately, flawlessly, and with complete fluency.
Good.
Okay?
Good.
So we're going to start off. So we ended off last podcast with, in episode number 238, we ended off with we're doing it in alphabetical order.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we ended off with evictions, so we were on the E's.
Yep.
The end of the E's. So we're going to start off with the F's, right?
Yep.
Letter F. So the first word we're going to do is fair market value.
Okay.
It's so often called FMV. That's its initials. FMV. M like in Michael. FMV. This term is most often used by appraisers on what their estimation and calculated opinion is at which time a real property would change hands between a willing buyer and a willing seller in an open market with a reasonable amount of time. It is also used for factors like government taking the property. We call that eminent domain, usually for highways or widening of roads or that type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Insurance issues, right? Separation values of the dwelling and the land. Sometimes they needed to do an appraisal because they need to know how much the properties, like the land itself is worth and how much the edifice or the building is worth. That's often done for like insurance reasons. Like suppose you had a fire and the insurance company wanted to know what it was worth. They want to know what the edifice or the building is worth without the land. So they'll do an appraisal to figure that out, right?
Right.
It's also used for a base of a loan amount because obviously a bank doesn't want to overlend on a property because if they end up with it back or trying to do a foreclosure, they don't want to take a bath on the overage that they lent, or get a shortage of the overage that they lent. It's also done for a sales comparison, which we do very often when we're buying property. We want to know if our sales amount is correct, right?
Yep.
How much it would cost to build another one. You know, like sometimes you have to do an appraisal on a property that's, you know, like maybe a school or, the police station or something like that. I'm using, extreme cases, but you would want to know, what those buildings look like and maybe what you're going to add or subtract to the new building, and you would have the appraisal of one of those other buildings, so you would know how much you can spend on a new one.
Right.
Right? Does that make
yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
Apartment buildings is big for that. Apartment buildings are big for that. They'll go into an area, like I know Texas and Florida right now have a lot of construction with apartment buildings. Suppose you got a 300 unit apartment building, they might have that appraised so that they can find out how much they can spend on a new one.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
it's unusual, but it does happen.
Yep.
And finally, one of the main reasons for fair market value is a capitalization. Capitalization means putting the funds together to fund the product, or fund the project is what I meant to say, right?
Right.
So that you need to know how much it's worth, because you don't want to underfund or overfund, undercapitalize or overcapitalize the project, right?
Right.
Or the last one is just annual income. You would want to know fair market value so that your annual income. I mean, we're going through that right now. We were just talking about our 6 family that we're looking to buy, right? We have money guys looking at it, and they're like, which is something I'd like to bring up real quick here because of this exact point. We have money guys looking at this 6 family that we thought was a good deal, and they're like bringing up points like, really, I don't want to lend on it because it's not a good enough deal. You're not buying it below market value, or there's the cash flow, or the big thing is what's the cash value, right? Or the value add is what we call it. That's the slang for it. What's the value add? I don't see enough value add here. So like, how are we gonna bring the capitalization rate up? In other words, if I put my money in, what's the upside? Is the cash flow isn't enough. I mean, it's good, but it's not enough. It brings back a 3 or 4% return on the cash flow, but what can I do to get that cash flow up?
Yeah.
So, all that makes sense?
Yeah, I just have one question. It sounds a little bit to me like comparative market analysis. And I'm wondering if there's a big difference in that, because I don't remember if we covered that under the C's.
Yeah, so the fair market value is the synopsis of a compared market analysis. So a compared market analysis is going to be the due diligence of getting to the fair market value.
Cool.
So the fair market value is the summary of a comparative market analysis.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right. So a compared market analysis is just that. You're going off and comparing other like kind of buildings or real estate to find out their valuation or what they've done in the past. So I don't know if you can do this, Peter. I can do it if you want, but the word imperial, you know what that means?
Imperial.
Yeah. So imperial means that you have past data. You have data that was extracted from the past, and you're going to make a future decision based on that data. Right?
Yeah.
So
is it imperial?
Empirical.
Empirical, that's what it is. I thought that's what you meant, but then empirical. Like you've seen it before, like you can see it. Okay.
Did I say the word wrong?
You said imperial.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why I think I knew what you were going for with that. Yeah, empirical is a word. Good.
Yeah.
Now I got you.
So I'm sorry. Maybe it was. I thought I said that. Maybe it was just.
But that's the point of our show. Like empirical. So between me, you, and a couple other people, we can always get it right.
Yeah. So empirical means that you take past information and you extract from it whatever you need to do to get future information. That is the entire emphasis of a comparative market analogy or
analysis.
Analysis. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason for it. You're taking past sales, past activity, and you're going to predict the future with that information.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's clear.
So fair market value is the summary of all of that, that empirical data.
Good.
Okay?
And see, folks, that's how we use it. This is how we do it. I didn't, I could have just, if you notice, I was looking a little bit like, huh? So we talk like, wait a minute, we go back and forth. Oh, good, we got it straight. Now we can move on.
Yeah.
That's how it's done.
Federal tax lien is the next one. Federal tax lien is the next word.
Federal.
Yeah, federal tax lien.
Okay.
So this is placed on an individual or entity's personal property or real property by filing a notice of federal tax lien on tax records or for tax records.
Yeah.
This is most often placed by the IRS, okay, for owned and uncollected debt for taxes. And could trigger foreclosure if not paid.
Right.
Now, I don't want to get into this in this podcast, and if you remind me at a later date when some other podcast, I will tell you how to do this. Actually, it's not that hard, but I have actually bought properties that have IRS liens on them, subject to, and I call the IRS up and ask them to remove their lien. Because they want the person, not the property. What does it say here? It says, this is placed on an individual or an entity's personal property.
On their personal property. So if they don't own the property, they can't put the lien on it. And if you own it, it's not your tax bill, right?
Right.
Good.
So they will remove the lien. So the way you do that is when we do subject to is we get the deed in our name, we file the deed, it's in a trust, often, most often.
Yeah.
And the IRS looks at that and they're like, oh, well, they know they can't attach a trust anyways. So they look at it like, we better get out of this because we're breaking the law. We're doing something wrong. We better get out of this. Okay, so you can do that. It's ballsy, but you can do it. Okay. Which, by the way, the first time or two that I did it, I made sure that if I had to pay the lien, there was enough in the deal for me to do it.
Right.
By removing the lien, I was able to just make the deal fatter.
Yeah.
Okay, and I've only done it, I think, once, maybe twice. So I don't. If I can stay away from the IRS, I do.
Amen.
Next word: first lien. First lien. Okay. So liens are filed in sequence of date of when the occurrence happened. So if it's February 4th, 2021, and I file my mortgage today, the way liens go is they're recorded chronologically by date. Right? So I could file a first lien at 9 a.m. in the morning and a second lien at 9:10 in the morning. And it would file first lien, second lien, right? So, so like your mortgage, that lends the largest amount usually goes first. Okay, the second mortgage would usually be less money and go second, and so on and so on. Plus, there's things like mechanical liens or IRS liens that we just talked about. Town tax liens, water liens, sewer liens, etc., are all placed chronologically by date and dealt with by date. Now, here's the irony of the statement: the guy with the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
Tax liens from the city supersede everything. So suppose you got a $200,000 piece of property and the bank has a $175,000 mortgage on the property.
Yep.
The tax lien goes before the first lien.
Wow, even before the mortgage. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so when the property gets sold, the tax lien gets paid first. So suppose the first lien, the tax lien is, we'll say, 20 grand. Okay, and they get 50 grand for the property. That means that the tax office is going to get 20 grand, and the first lien is going to get the other 30.
Right.
Okay. Now, here's what's interesting. Okay, When this occurs, the tax liens are on there, which, by the way, the water and sewer is the same way because it's the city. They get paid first, okay? But those are smaller numbers usually, right?
Sure.
Here's what happens. Often, if the bank finds out that there's a tax lien, what the bank will do, or any smart lender will do, I shouldn't say smart, it could be smart, it could not be smart, is they will go buy the tax lien to protect their position. Because what could happen is there could be a tax lien sale, and there's rules to all this. So the reason why I don't do tax lien sales is because usually, especially in the state of Connecticut, first of all, there's 6 months of redemption. So that means if you buy a tax lien, the owner of the property can actually have 6 months to redeem it. Now they have to pay you back what you paid in the tax lien, plus interest and fees, which, by the way, the city will collect. Okay? But more importantly, you have to wait 12 months and go through a foreclosure proceeding. So that means you bought the tax lien, you don't own the deed, you put up this money, now you have to go sue the seller to get the deed, and then you got to deal with the bank, which most people don't know. Because some banks will walk away, some banks won't.
Right.
Right? So it's not the way it sounds when they say buying tax liens. When you tear into it, it's not as, it's like everything else you do. It's not as clear cut because when you start to do it, there's legal issues, and every state is different.
Not as easy as they make it look on the commercial at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Okay, next phrase. Ready?
Yep.
Holdover clause. Okay? This is most often used in lease language. Okay? And a lease means the occupancy agreement.
Yeah.
That means that somebody's living in a property and there's rules and regulations of what they can or can't do in the property. That's a lease agreement, is the occupancy rules, right?
Sure.
So this is most often used in a lease language, and it covers the lease when it expires, and the tenant remains in the property.
Okay.
It just states that what will happen when this occurs. So you have a 12-month lease, the person doesn't say anything, you don't do anything, and they continue to pay you. Like, for example, I have a lease option on a property, my property in Clinton,
Yep.
and I make it $1,000 a month, and I have no desire to change that, right? So
Sure.
his lease expired in August of 2020, and he keeps paying me. So as far as I'm concerned, he's on a month-to-month lease, but under the guise of the original lease. In other words, all the rules and all the things that he agreed to in the original lease are under the holdover clause. So the lease actually has that language in there that says that he remains, he still is a tenant, he is still paying me, even though the lease expired. The holdover clause says everything stays the same except the term. He's on a month-to-month instead of a 12-month.
Sure.
Okay, so that's what the holdover clause means, right?
I don't remember seeing that in my lease that I have, but I don't remember if it like automatically happens, but it has to be in a lease agreement, holdover clause, and it's in. I have to go look at my stuff.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah, it's
people
pretty
usually
com-
just keep doing whatever they've been doing, but it'd be nicer to have it like say it in a holdover. I'll go look at my own leases, check that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is there. I'm 99.9%.
Yeah.
If it's my lease, which I think it is, then
Yeah,
it's
I've
there.
used yours. But it's one of those things, you don't notice as much when you're signing one at the very beginning because you're looking at when you're getting paid, how much, and some other details. Don't ruin the place. So I'm like, go take a look. See what I mean? Holdover clause. Now I know what to look for.
Right. Independent contractor. Okay. This is not a builder. Okay. It means someone you contract work to be done that is not one of your employees.
Yep.
Okay. Now, we use contracts for all that, right? And even if we know them, like I have a contractor that's done over 30 renovations for me, and I still do one with him. He's never once given me any hassles other than time, and like time to do the job. That's the only thing that he ever flunks on.
Yeah.
Right? But he's fine with the rest of it. So, independent contractor. So if you have someone, so Peter, I'd like to do a Bill twist on this. Okay.
Yeah.
A VA is an independent contractor.
Yeah.
So here's how I think of an independent contractor. Okay. Someone that I'm paying that I do not have to pay federal FIDC or whatever it is, the taxes, the federal taxes.
Yeah.
I don't have to pay their unemployment. I don't have to pay for their insurance. Right? They're not an employee.
Right.
Right? Because I don't know if most people may not know this. Most people do. I don't know. But when you're an employer, you contribute whatever amount of taxes gets taken out of the employee's check. The employer is spending that much money.
Right.
So when you hire somebody for $15 an hour, it's not $15 an hour. It's actually 25% above that. So when an employer is paying somebody $15 an hour, let's just do it here, times 1.25%, you're actually paying them like $18 an hour. Because you have to contribute, let me see, 15 times 1.25. Yeah, you're paying them $18.75 an hour. So if you're getting paid $15 an hour, your employer is paying $18.75 an hour. And that's without any 401k distributions or anything like that. That's just for taxes.
Right.
Okay, so basically here's what it means. A 1099 is the number of a form that you would file for an employee that you're just paying them and not deducting their tax ramifications for them working for you by the hour.
Yep.
Okay, so a 1099 is a document you send to the government and say, hey, look, I paid this person this amount of money. He needs to claim his taxes because I've not paid them.
Right.
Okay, so fortunately for us, VAs are usually out of the country, so we don't have to do that, right? But the point is that they are there. Okay?
Right.
Now, here's the last thing I want to say on that, because I'm not trying to give legal advice here, but most people don't know. They think that this is a cute little strategy of them not paying taxes. Right? They think, oh, I'll 1099 them, especially contractors. Okay? Or people that work for them. Here's the ramifications of doing this. If the employee or the independent contractor does not pay their taxes, they come after you.
Really?
Yeah. So if you're the source of the work or the source, they come after you if the independent contractor doesn't pay their taxes. Now, I've only heard that happening a couple times. It's not a huge thing, but I know because my accountant has told me, my CPA has told me, if they do not pay their taxes, they come after you to pay the taxes.
Boy, that doesn't seem fair, especially since any contracts would state things like that, wouldn't it? You know,
Right.
I'm not hiring you, you don't work for me, you're independent, take care of your own taxes, and then they come after you? Well, that doesn't seem right.
Well, because they think that it's skullduggery on your part, that it's dishonest.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Wrong
All right.
target.
Yeah, exactly.
Wrong target. Get the guy who didn't pay his own taxes to pay. Yikes.
Next term, installment sale. This is when a property is sold, but instead of the seller getting all the money at once, they get payments or installments until paid. The two main reasons for doing this are, listen to this, Peter, because our entire 239 podcast and everything that you and I do and talk about is about installment sales. We are installment sales specialists.
Yeah.
So listen to what I'm going to tell you right now, because this is one of those things about being a genius, and I'm not saying I am, but This is a genius thing to say.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The two main reasons for doing installment sales are, one, business reasons, like more profit, selling quicker, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And two, tax savings.
Mm.
So what we have spent so many verbose hours explaining is about the installment sale, because that's what we're looking for, is installment sales.
Yeah.
We're looking for somebody to take monthly payments, because it says this is when a property is sold, but instead of the seller getting all the money at once, they get monthly payments or installments until paid.
Mm-hmm.
That's our entire business model, right? So the two main reasons you do this are, one, business reasons, for more profits, for relief, for whatever the situation may be. That's where the variant is what are those reasons? What are those business reasons? Or number two, tax savings. So when you're talking to your sellers, knowing this, that you're doing in an installment sale, and knowing this definition that I just explained it to you so concisely and so easily, kind of puts the whole package of your training in one little paragraph. This is what you're doing. You're looking for people willing to take installment sales. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you just explained what we're looking for when we want to tell the seller the benefits. So there's going to be some business benefits, to us and to him, and then some tax benefits to him or to us. So those two buckets.
It takes the entire confusion topic for anybody that's listening and say the reason why we would do this, because here's the point. Most creative investors like us, not most, every creative real investor, if you're doing it for real, here's what you're going to run into. You're going to run into the person that says, what's the matter? You don't have enough money to buy my house?
Yep.
What are you, like, left-handed? Are you like the redheaded stepchild? You don't have any money. You don't have any capital. You don't have any credit. You can't buy my house like everybody else will.
Yeah, basically, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Suppression. Suppression.
Yeah, there you go. Right. That's oppression, actually. But here's the point. The point is that if you understand this definition, that there's two reasons why that person would do this transaction. One is, as a business move, they can get more money, right? Or they could get relief quickly, right? Or they can solve a specific problem that somebody with a checkbook full of money necessarily couldn't do. That's all business reasons. Or they get tax savings because of the installments, because you can spread out the taxes over years, the capital gains tax over years, right? So knowing this one thing could anchor you with that seller. Like, kind of like, screw you, buddy. You don't know what you're talking about. It has nothing. What are you making me look like I'm like some criminal for? You don't understand, not me. Right? Good. Here we go. We're going to keep moving because we're way past time. Ready?
Yeah.
Irrevocable trust. Irrevocable trust. So this simply means you can't undo it once it's done. Or it can't be revoked. Revoked means turned around or brought back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
This is not the type of trust we use to do subject to deals. We use property trusts, and can easily be undone. Property trust can. But I'm going to tell you, I can't emphasize this enough. When you talk to an attorney, they're going to talk about irrevocable trust because that's what they know. Family trust, that's what they know. Irrevocable family trust, right? This one word is mostly confused when we're doing subject to deals and using the trusts. So most will advise this type of trust instead of the property trust, because most attorneys, and I kid you not, or most closing agents, and I dare you to go find somebody that knows how to do this. I dare you to do it. Just ask an attorney or a closing agent next time you're talking to one, or call one up and say, do you do trusts. Tell me what you do.
Oh, yeah.
See, the word is misunderstood by the professionals, because what we need to do, it's misunderstood by you, because if you call up a closing agent and say, do you do trust, you're just giving them a misunderstood, because trust is like a mortgage, right? What kind of a mortgage? Is it an adjustable mortgage? Is it a balloon mortgage? Is it interest only mortgage? Like what kind of a mortgage?
Exactly.
Right? So
I was thinking about
trust
that.
Trust is the same way. So you have to use the word property trust.
And that's not the same as a land trust.
Yes, it is. Land
It
trust,
is.
property
Okay.
trust.
Because some of these have different words. Okay, good. Because see, I was thinking about this at the beginning of the show, because there's different kinds of words. There's like a trust, that's a thing. But then there's what kind of trust? It's like I bought a car. Well, what kind of car? A Ford, a Chevy, a pickup, an SUV?
Right.
So those kind of details make a big freaking difference. Now, here's the thing. What if you only know you didn't know there's different kinds of trusts?
Right.
Right?
Or we weren't talking about this right now. This is the point of the show. Which again, I mean, I could see that I don't have many listeners right now. But you know what? When I finish writing the books that I'm writing, and we have these glossaries in the back of the book, I'm going to tell you right now, the glossaries alone are going to be worth the value of the books.
Yeah.
Because people don't know this. And if you don't understand this language, this is what I'm saying, speak in the language. You call up a lawyer. How many coaching clients I have? I call up the lawyer and they said they can do a trust. Wait a minute. Put the brakes on.
Yeah.
What kind of a trust? Because here's what happens. And I talked about this in our Subject 2 event, which was 6.5 hours, which was amazing. That was the best event I think I've done to date. Because I just did an amazing job with that. And that's one of my books that are going to be coming out, a Subject 2 book. But the point is this. If they are going to do a family trust or an irrevocable trust, or the things that they're going to be asking you for are things like tax returns and social security numbers and like entity names and all this stuff, that if they're asking that, run like hell, because you got the wrong guy. Okay? My documents, when I do a Subject 2 document, is called a warranty deed of trust. Warranty means it's being passed safely without liens that I don't know about. Okay? Deed means the ownership changes from seller to buyer's name. And trust means that this 1.5 page document creates the trust. So it's a warranty deed of trust. It does 3 things with 1.5 pages. And I'm telling you right now, when attorneys see this, they're like, wow, this is a really nice document. Because it does 3 things at once. I don't go off and do a whole bunch of stuff to start a trust up. No, when my seller signs the deed, they automatically create the trust. Then I have a trust declaration page, it's 5 pages, that explains, it's not filed, by the way. The trust declaration page is the rules between the beneficiary and the trustee. And often my beneficiary is an LLC. Okay, so it is knowing this and knowing what I'm telling you right now, and having the fluency in this language, so when you're talking to somebody about what we're talking about right now, is extremely important, because if you don't understand it, you can't see the outpoint that would happen when it's happening. Right? You won't know that the lawyer is giving you bad advice. You can't see that. You don't know that, because you think that the lawyers, you put the lawyer on a pedestal and he's looking down on you like, oh, he makes $125 an hour. Okay? So I was talking to my wife yesterday, and I never talk about this, but I'm going to tell you because it's coming up right now.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife yesterday, and she was asking me about some numbers, and she's asking me about this and asking me about that. I thought she was going to pass out. She was on the phone. She's in Florida right now. I thought she was de-winded.
Really?
Yeah. Because when I started spouting off some numbers, she realized that my time in most cases is worth about $500 an hour. And she's like, you got that wrong. I'm like, no, here's the proof. When I do this or I do that, I do this webinar, I do that, this is what I get paid. When I do my coaching calls, here's what I get paid. It's about $500 an hour. So, now I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because who the hell is an attorney that's $125 an hour, $150 an hour to me? He's an employee. I don't look up to him. I don't put him on a pedestal.
Well,
Right?
Bill,
My attorney tells me very often, I need to get together with you and learn how to do this stuff.
Yeah.
He calls me for advice on other deals.
Bill, I've been in the car, folks. I've been in the car with Bill. We're smoking his fat cigar, and we're talking about our real estate deals. And our lawyer calls and asks Bill a question, and what about this and what about that? So yeah.
So I don't say this to brag, because I don't think of myself that way at all. I never forget where I came from. Okay? I say this because what we're doing right now is what I've done for 20 years. I made sure I understood the terms, the language, the words. I've always done that. And over the years, I accumulated this wealth of fluency, and this wealth of phrases, and I apply them so subtly to the seller. So when I'm talking to the seller, I know what I'm doing because I understand the words and the language.
Yep.
Okay, so that's why I bring it up here today. Please don't take it as being arrogant or anything like that. It's just sincere. You too could do the same. If you listen to these 3 podcasts, you get the book, Power of Words by Sean Clouden. That's where it all started. That's where it should be. That's where you get that book, and you will excel above every other investor in your industry. I promise you. My hand on the Bible and my kids as collateral. It is that certain that this is how you will excel. And we could preach this and I'm taking a chance by doing these 3 podcasts, because there might be people that think we're nuts. Like why are they beating that drum so hard? You know what I mean? And they think they don't need it. Well, you know what? They're dead wrong. Right? Dan Kennedy, the marketing guy, taught me this, and I'm so over time. Like we are so screwed for time.
Folks, tune in for episode 4 in 2 weeks.
Yeah. So here's the point. Dan Kennedy said in a newsletter years ago, I couldn't believe it. You know how you excel in life? Do you know the secret of excelling in life? Do you know it, Peter?
I hope I do, but what did he say?
Well, what do you think it is?
Well, to my point, I learned this whole subject of study and learning, I think 40 years ago. And I became top educator for music lessons in my area, hands down. You can go look at my testimonials, 5-star, blah, 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 blah. I'm not the greatest guitar player in the area, but I'm the best damn teacher, because I'm the only teacher. The other guys aren't teachers. And some of the guys are my ex-students teaching, and they don't really know how. I'm sorry, they just don't know how. They do okay, but the students aren't happy. The reason I got into real estate at the age of like 65, because I knew I could learn it fast, because I can learn. I didn't learn it from my dad, who bought stuff in the 60s, and I learned inch by inch. I don't have the time inch by inch. Look at my damn age. Look at my damn hair, or lack of. I had to learn this business on the frickin' run. And know how I learn from Bill? We get in the middle of something, and I learn kind of after the fact, or during. That's how I learn. Like, bang, bang, instantly, because I don't have time to sit around, putz around. So that's what I did.
All that is fascinating, and all that's good, but that's plan. That's step 2 of the plan. The first thing you need to do, according to Dan Kennedy, is the opposite of what the herd does. If everybody else is buying 2-family houses and they think that's the thing to do, you do the opposite of that. Okay? Now, the reason why you could do the opposite is because of all the stuff we're talking about. If you understand the language, you understand the business, you're very skillful with doing the opposite and confident in yourself that it's going to work because you've studied these things. Like, for example, trust, right? So that's a classic example, subject to deals. I do the opposite of what everybody says you can't do. You cannot assume mortgages. It's against the law. You cannot do this with trusts. It's against the law. Yeah, I did one yesterday. It's going to make $300 a month and about 40 grand in equity. Okay? You know what it cost me to do this deal, not counting my marketing? About $70 to file the deed and about an hour and a half to do the paperwork. That's what it cost me. So I got a $160,000 asset for $70. So go ahead, the herd. Tell me you can't do it. I'm glad that you think that. It leaves more deals for me.
Yep.
Right? But because I understand what a trust is and because I understand what all this stuff is, I can go against the grain of most because I've done my research. And it takes time. I'm not telling you to just do this. Like Peter says, as you're doing things, have a third eye on yourself and make sure you know the manifestations of when you don't understand, which Sean Clouden explains in his book. There's manifestations. There's physical manifestations when you don't understand something. And when you recognize those physical manifestations, like one of them is yawning. When you're reading and you yawn, that means you just went past and misunderstood something.
That's right.
And Sean Clouden explains that in his book.
And don't say you're tired. Don't say that. And if you're tired, don't be reading. But if you say that, forget it, because I always find words when people yawn. Always. I don't care if you're tired or dead. There's always words. So shut up and go look for it. And don't be lazy about it.
Good.
Sorry.
So we keep going off on this tangent. So next word is lease to own.
Okay.
This is also called lease with a purchase to own, or an option agreement. Lease with an option. Okay, so there's three different words here, right? And now watch this. Watch what I'm going to do here, Peter. Yeah. Now this is something we've talked about for 238 episodes. Watch what I'm going to do here. I'm going to explain it all very simply. Without all the crap around it. Okay, here we go. It is a combined agreement done on separate documents, so each stands on their own but connected. So there's a lease, there's an option, they're connected with one paragraph saying that if you default on one, the other defaults. If you default on the other, the first one defaults. Okay?
Good.
An option agreement gives a buyer the rights to purchase after buying those rights with a non-refundable fee paid at the signing of the option agreement. If you fail to execute, there is no legal ramifications. So you buy the rights, and if you don't purchase whatever you're buying in the option agreement, right, you just lose your non-refundable money to purchase the rights. That's it. You're not obligated. So if you buy a $200,000 house and you put up $100 and you don't perform, you lose the 100. There's no legal ramifications, aka no risk. Okay, so I put in all my marketing materials that this happens, but I'm speaking to, and pardon my French because it's extremely arrogant, right? Good morning, Jamie. I put in there no risk. Now, I obviously have spent my time studying this and understanding it and doing deals. That's the best way to study this stuff, is to do deals as you go, right? And the understatement that there is no risk is so gross, it's actually pathetic, because there is no risk. But because the marketing guys for the last 20 years or whatever, 30 years, have overused this statement, it doesn't impinge anymore. It's not an alarming, attention-getting headline that somebody could do. But I have to tell you, when you dig into this and you start to learn what we're talking about, the option agreement, so installment sales and options, installment sales and options is our entire business. If I had to only teach two things, those two things would be the things I would teach over and over and over again until somebody became a millionaire. Because those two devices alone are the entire crux of this business, right? So you're going to have a lease to own, which means that you are going to rent the property. You're going to live in it with an occupancy agreement, meaning rules and regulations of what you can and can't do. Attached to that document is what we call an option agreement, or it's called a purchase agreement, or it's called a lease to own agreement. Okay? That simply means that you have the rights to buy this property at a predetermined set number with a predetermined set amount of time. So you have 2 years to execute this option agreement for $160,000, no matter what the market does, up, bad, down, different, it doesn't matter. You can renege on this anytime you want. All you're going to lose is the money that you put up to pay for the rights. Now, we pay $100 for the rights. We sell it often to our sellers for $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 or more.
Yep.
We're selling them the rights. We're selling them the American dream that they can own a house. That is the magic of this entire system that we use, is the option agreement. The ability to buy rights and not have to execute them. It is 1,000% risk-free. It is the only way to get started in real estate. Okay?
Yep.
We good?
Absolutely.
Next term, loan modification.
Yep.
A modification happens when a lender agrees to change the term of your loan. Modify means to change something. Right? So what happens is, well, let me keep reading. So a modification happens when a lender agrees to change the terms of your loan. Now, I'm not talking about terms like time. I'm talking about all the agreements is the terms. It's another word that's confusing, which we'll cover next week. But term, because it's got multiple definitions, right?
Yeah.
So any of the terms can be changed to modify the original agreement. Done this way, the original loan stays in effect. The collateral is still secured by the loan, but there's other changes that were made, like payment amounts or length of time and etc. So when we talk about a modification, which we were talking about not too long ago, my prediction, what's going to happen with all these foreclosures after the pandemic that everybody's predicting is going to happen, I think the bank's not going to let it happen, because if they have too many foreclosures, they're going to thwart their lending power. And why would they want to thwart their lending power? Because the government's been printing more money than ever that they get. So this is the best time in history for them to lend, because the government's just giving them billions of dollars to lend to get it circulated in the system, right? So why would they want to thwart their lending power? They're not going to allow that to happen. So what they're going to do is they're going to start doing these modifications. And if somebody's a year behind because of the pandemic, they're going to add it to the back of their mortgage. They'll probably invent some sort of fees to do this so they make more money. And the banks, what do the banks want? Banks want debt. They want people paying them.
Yeah.
Right? I read one time in a book, I forgot the name of the book so I can't quote it. The fastest way to become wealthy is to have the most amount of people paying you. That's a way to get wealthy. So why do we do real estate? We don't do real estate because we like the houses. Maybe some people do. That's the wrong reason. We do real estate because we want to get the most amount of people paying us. That's freedom.
Yeah.
When you have $6,000 in positive cash flow or pocket money coming in, and your bills are only $4,000, and you only got to work 10 hours a month, you're free, man. You did it. You're out of the trap. You see? So that's what you want to do. So loan modification means that the bank is going to keep the collateral in position. They're going to keep the original loan in position. They're just going to probably take it from a 25-year loan to a 26-year loan. They want that anyways. They want more debt. All they're doing is extending the debt. They're going to want that. Okay? So I think that the big gold rush, if you would, for lack of terms, coming with the pandemic is pent-up sales. We've gone 10 or 12 months, and there's people that wanted to sell their house and couldn't or didn't want people with the pandemic looking at their house, viewing their houses, so they didn't sell their house. So we've got 1 year or 10 or 12 months, it's 1 year now, but 10 or 12 months worth of pent-up sales that never hit the market. So now almost anybody that talks real estate right now, they're like, oh, the market's booming. I should sell now because it's highest ever. You know, I could put my house on the market and I can get 3 people to bid on my property, and I'm in control. So all those people are going to hit the spring market, and they're going to flood the market. And by the time we get out the other side of March or April, what's going to happen is we're going to go from having a scarcity of houses on the market to a flood of houses on the market. And the days on the market, instead of being 20 or 30 days, is going to go up to 300 days. And we as investors, as installment payment or installment sales specialists, are going to be right there in the wake of doing that, and we're going to make a fortune. So just learn as much as you can right now, because another 6 months, the tides are going to turn, I promise. And if it's not 6 months, it's 8 months. It's going to happen. It just can't not happen. Okay? Just statistically. Next word, present value. Present value means what it is worth today in present time. And condition. It's not just what it's worth today, but it's also based on not only today's value, but its condition. And is most often expressed in dollars, not equity.
Okay. Isn't equity expressed in dollars?
Equity is expressed in dollars when they hit the closing table. So equity is the difference between what hits the closing table minus all the expenses. It's the profit of the deal.
Right.
Okay.
It's dollars, but it's not present dollars. It's future possible dollars. That's the difference there.
So let me make this real easy. Equity is defined in my head what someone's willing to pay for and bring to the closing. It's not what the value of the property is. So the value of a property could be $100,000, but somebody's willing to pay me $94,000. $94,000 minus my expenses is the equity, not $100 minus my expenses. So when we do present time value, we're talking about what would somebody pay right now in present time bring to the closing table. Not like, well, comparatives say that it's worth this much, so that's the present time value. No, present time value is what somebody will bring to the closing table today.
Right, because the comparison is considering the past, right?
Yes.
The last 6 months or 3 months, whatever that is.
Right. So now the reason why I bring this up, you would probably wonder, Peter, because I know you, why are we bringing up present time value?
No, I'm not wondering at all, because I have a house to sell, Bill, and I'm really thinking present time value. What do I do now, tomorrow, next? Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the contrary or the opposite of present time value. ARV, which we didn't cover before, we should have. ARV.
Oh, okay.
After renovated value is a future value. In other words, you're buying an ugly house, you're going to add value to it. You're going to fix it up, put a new kitchen in, you're going to do this and this and this and this. When I'm all done, what is the renovated value? Now, after renovated value has a different meaning than a comparison sale. Right? A comparison sale is the way the house sits. So what you're going to do is when you do comps, right?
Yeah.
You're going to do comps based on it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,800 square foot within a half a mile radius, hopefully, of the property. Right?
Yep.
When you talk after renovated value, you add a component to that valuation, because what happens is the comparisons all might have 10-year-old kitchens. Now you have a brand new kitchen, so your after renovated value tends to be a little bit stronger than the comparison. Now what happens is if you use the comparable numbers, you've got an advantage, because they're going to look at all these other houses when they're shopping, the buyer's shopping, and they're going to walk in your house, and your house is going to be brand new. So if you're asking $200,000 for a house that everybody else is asking $200,000, and they walk in and there's a brand new kitchen and all the appliances and there's brand new paint, that's an edge for you. That's a selling edge for you, because it's or sometimes like what I just did. Well, we just did it in Meriden this past year, right? The comparisons, we bought the house based on our comparison of $181,000.
Right.
We renovated the living crap out of that house and sold for, I think, what was it, 190 something, 193 or 195 or something like that.
In the 90s.
The comparisons were in 180. We sold for 190. Why? Because we had a new roof, we had a new furnace, we had new floors, we had new bathrooms, we had a new kitchen. There was nothing that you would do. We even put in a new gas service for the furnace.
From the street.
New electrical service. There was nothing to do in this house other than for years, 5, 8, 10 years, nobody will do nothing to this house. We put an efficient furnace in it, nothing to do to this house. You don't even have to paint it, because we used what is the name of the paint we used? Benjamin Moore paint.
Ben Moore, good stuff.
Which is the top of the line, right? But we got top dollar. We made the house really nice. So that's the difference between ARV, comparable, and present value. Present value is like right now. So when you're looking at a house and you're looking to do an ugly house, it's present value. Okay, good. We good with that?
Yeah, a quick question. I notice when I look at comparisons to myself, I notice some of the houses are similar to mine, unrenovated, or the one I'm looking at. And then I say, wait a minute, these three over here have been renovated. So am I looking more at the after renovated value if I see the houses that are brand new kitchens as opposed to the outdated ones? Should we separate those two buckets when we're figuring prices?
I would compare. I would average all of them together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next term, owner financing. This simply means that the owner sells and becomes the bank. And they'll loan you the money and you make them payments instead of a bank.
Yep.
That's all it means.
Yep.
Okay. Next term, pass-through entity. Pass-through entity.
Okay.
This is usually an LLC or some other type of business entity, like an S corporation, C corporation, anything that has that type of language to it. And which, by the way, an LLC is limited liability. That means that what you're trying to do is you're trying to protect yourself against any liability. Somebody trips and falls and they want to sue you. You have this entity or this business, it's called an entity, this business tool between you and the suer, the plaintiff, right? So what happens is there's some protection there because they can't just attack you, and they can usually only attack what's in the entity and not you personally.
Yeah, not your personal property, not your personal stuff.
These different LLCs and S corporations, C corporations, all have different ways of doing this, right? They have different ways of protecting you, okay? So what happens is a pass-through entity is usually an LLC or some other type of business entity where the income earned in the entity is passed through the entity and onto the owner or owners. Okay? It is an income tax thing. Ask your accountant for a better explanation based on your own personal situation. So I'm going to tell you right now, in a short story, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a legal attorney. The difference between you might say, why would I just put the property in my name? Because when you have an entity, when you have gross income or gross profit, say you're making 30 grand, right? You can write off things like interest paid in your office, in your car, in the materials, in capital gains, and there's things that you are legally allowed to write off to reduce that taxed amount. So you might take your 30 grand and bring it down to a $22,000 gain. You pay tax on the $22,000. Okay, so the purpose of the entity is not only for a liability reason, but it's also a way for you to legally reduce the profit in the business using your expenses for doing the transaction, right?
Sure.
So things like payroll taxes and all that stuff is what your accountant uses to reduce the profits. Okay?
Right.
This is how, when you hear on the news, they say people like Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes. This is how they do it. I'm not even saying Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes, but that just because that was a big hoopla recently. But this is how the rich don't pay taxes, is because they write everything off. Nelson Rockefeller said many years ago, the way to become wealthy, or the trick of wealth, is to own nothing, control everything. So these people don't own these entities. They own the entities, but the entities own all the wealth. So all they do is control these entities.
Yep.
And every one of these entities has write-offs. So obviously the entity might pay for their leased vehicle. Right? Might pay for their office. Right? All the things that they use will have write-offs. This is the reason why you have an entity. But hear me loudly, at the end of the day, almost every entity flows back to you personally with the profits. It's just a reduced profit from using the entity. Are we clear?
What you say, it's a reduced profit or reduced expenses?
It's a reduced profit.
Oh, yeah, because money's
So
been
if you
taken
made
out.
30 grand and you wrote off $8,000 in expenses,
you.
your profit is now 22,000. You pay taxes on the 22,000, not on the 30.
Right, which is a savings overall. So I got it.
Next term, points. This is interest without time. You'll never hear this definition anywhere else because I figured this out years ago and I've never read this definition. So this is unique to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Points is the interest without time. In other words, when charging interest, the borrower has to legally have been lent the money and use it before the banking commission will allow interest to be charged. So in other words, you get a mortgage, you have 30 days to pay your first payment. The reason why is because they have to give you the money, let you use the money, and then charge you interest.
Right.
Those are banking laws, right?
Yeah,
So-
that makes sense.
What's that?
Well, that makes sense because you can't charge somebody for something that hasn't happened.
Right. They haven't used it.
Yeah, so
Right.
you charge the interest because you lent the bill. Well, let me use the money, then I'll pay the interest. So 30 days later is fine.
So points doesn't need this. So what happens is, so if you're being charged 3 points on a loan, it simply means 3% of the loan will be charged immediately when the loan starts. So if you have a $100,000 mortgage or a $100,000 loan, you'll get 3% point at 3 points. You'll get $97,000 when you receive the loan, but you owe the 100 grand.
Yeah, so you're paying interest over time on the 100. They took the 3 off the top. You know what I call it? Interest up front right now, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So it's extortion actually. But the reason why this happens, Peter, so the lender feels his return is sufficient on shorter loans. So like, for example, I just took a loan and I'm supposed to be 9%. 9% is APR, annual percentage rating. So you take the 9% and you divide it over 12 months, right?
Yeah.
So it's 9 divided by 12 means I'm paying 3/4 of a point a month on that money. So if I were to take a loan and I only took it for 6 months, that means I'm only technically paying, let me see, times 6, 4.5%,
Yeah.
right? That's not enough for most lenders. Which,
Even
by
though-
the way, is
but
one of
even
the
if
reasons
it's
why
only
we
6
promise to pay 9%, because
Yeah.
often we'll close in 9 months or 8 months and we don't pay the 9%.
Yeah. But it's still less time. You know, it's not over a year. It's still over only 6 months.
Yeah, but they're not worried about releasing the money over time. They want to release it because the more time they give you, the more they can make.
Yeah, and if it's only a
So-
few months, then they have to find something to do with the money later again.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So here's what happens. They charge you 3 points, so now you pay 3%. So you pay that money up front, and then so the difference between the 3 points and the 4.5%, so now they make 7.5%.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's guaranteed. So these loans, these points were designed for short-term loans so that it would bring the average percentage for the lender up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what's happened is like everything else, greed laid in, and now it's rampant as part of fees. It's not just on shorter loans now. Okay, so basically, hard money lenders have gotten a hold of this and they've abused it. Okay,
Yep.
they get 4 points and 12% interest. Okay, which, by the way, the reason why 12% interest is used most often, do you know why 12% is the magic number?
Because it's easy to multiply by 0.01 every month.
That's right. It's 1% every month.
Just easier.
Yeah. Okay, good. Next term is power of attorney. Power of attorney.
Hey, Bill,
This
I'm
is
one of those.
What's that?
I'm a power of attorney.
Okay, good. This is a document that allows another individual, not necessarily an attorney, the right to perform the act needed that otherwise could only be performed by the person giving the right to the other person. Here is an interesting fact before I continue.
Yeah.
And I run into this often, which is why I'm bringing this term up. This only works for a person that's giving the rights when they're alive. So your mom gave you a power of attorney,
Right.
right? If she passes, the power of attorney goes with her.
Yeah. And people think
Right.
it goes on in goes on, but it doesn't.
So when you're talking to probate deals, I'll ask questions like, well, who did you go to probate court? Oh, I don't need to go to probate court. I'm a power of attorney. Well, did your mom pass? Yeah. Oh, well, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there
the
something?
reason, the purpose, and we're going to get into this next week, but the purpose of probate court is the person that is on the deed or on other assets like credit cards and money and checking accounts and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
The person that owns those assets is dead.
Yeah.
And they can't sign the documents.
Mm.
So there has to be a legal proceeding to make sure that there's not skullduggery, which is dishonesty, to steal those assets. Mm-hmm. Like a sister or a brother can't forge somebody's name or do some crazy shit like that. So the purpose of probate is to have a adjudication of the assets are being divided equally as the deceased person requires them to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this power of attorney is a signed document. It's not a verbal agreement, and there are many versions of this. Like there's a general power of attorney, healthcare, attorneys use them in unattended closings. Like my attorney, I sign a power of attorney every single time I do a closing because I don't go to the closing. And sometimes we miss a signature and he could sign it, right? Mm-hmm. Or we can use them property specific, which is what I did. Like yesterday, I signed a power of attorney with my seller and a subject to because it's property related. It's not a general. So it's like someone is standing in your shoes for you. Mm-hmm. And can be used on anything and everything that you have a right to or own. You can replace yourself in that position with a power of attorney. And it gives the power to another to make those pertinent decisions and can also take effect. Now, this is important because you don't think of this.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm listening.
It can also take effect at a time in the future.
Oh. Sure.
Right? Either at a special date or upon an occurrence of a special event. So you could have a power of attorney with your mom, mm-hmm. right? And it's dated today, but it doesn't go in effect until she goes into a nursing home.
Right. Something happens where they need,
or she gets ill, or you could clarify those special occurrences, and when that happens, immediately the power of attorney gets enacted and the person that is being assigned the rights, right, can all of a sudden just kick into gear. Mm-hmm. Right? It is a very flexible document. Okay?
Yeah, I'm using it a lot right now. From what you're saying, it sounds like there isn't something more long-lasting into a person's demise or death from power of attorney. It has to go straight to probate. There's no legal thing to be past death that you can control situations.
Right. So here's what happens. Even if somebody has a will, right, you got to go to probate. And the reason why is because they want to make sure that there are not claims towards the estate that are not being considered. Mm-hmm. So they had the right, even though a will is written, they had the right to go to the court and say, hey, I have this document where she wrote this in 1989, and now you have a document that was written in 2000, and there you go.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we're going to go over that next week.
Okay.
All right. So let's do the last one for today, and then we're going to get out of here. Okay? Pre-approval.
What's that? Okay. Why are you laughing? What's so funny about pre-approval?
Hold your hat.
Oh.
Because I am gonna educate you really good right now.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
This is banker talk. It's when a potential lender is telling a loan applicant the status of their loan application process. Mm-hmm. It means you're not actually approved.
No.
But there's no reason to believe that you're not able to get a loan. So it's like this gray area. You're not approved, but they're not telling you aren't approved either.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got you hyped up, thinking that you're going to buy a house.
Mm.
Okay? Approval means that the lender has interrogated your life, right? The borrower has provided all the documents required, and the lender is happy and feels safe, the key word, safe, that they can proceed with the loan, right? Which approval means, to me, that the likelihood of closing has just increased tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
So I call up the mortgage guy and say, oh yeah, I make $89,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
Then I provide my documents and realize that it was really only $78,000 a year.
Right. So
Because
the pre-approval happens before all that information's gone through. It's just very minimal.
Let me finish. So let me finish.
Okay.
So why is there a difference between the $89,000 and the $78,000? Because we find out that the bank doesn't count overtime.
Oh.
So his base salary is $78,000, but the borrower said, "Well, I made $89,000." That's what my W-2 says. But then when he presents his paycheck, the lender's like, "Well, we had a rough winter this year and had a lot of snow, and you were out plowing and made a lot of overtime, or you work for the power company and we had Storm Katrina and you had like 9 million hours in overtime and you made an extra $10,000 this year."
Yeah, you can't count on that. You can't count on that happening during the loan, during the mortgage payments.
Maybe you can, maybe you can't, but the guy with the gold makes the rules. So the banker says, well, we don't count on that, right?
Sure.
So here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
The punchline.
Yeah.
Pre-approvals are really a meaningless term. It's really designed as a ploy to keep the buyer in the lender's process. And only a percentage of those people will actually close. It's their lead funnel for getting deals, because they know only a certain percentage will close. Right? It's typically for a banker that actually thinks that banks are the only place to get money.
Yep.
So when I take a contract, what is the interrogation process for me when I'm selling something? Like, I make the realtor every single time call the lending agent and ask, do they have an approval or a pre-approval? Have they provided documents? Haven't they provided documents? Right? I've actually taken deals or signed contracts that are less money, less of an offer, because the higher number has a pre-approval and the lower number has an approval.
Yeah.
Sometimes as much as $5,000 or $10,000 worth of money, because I know I can close with the approval, and I'm not sure I can close with the pre-approval. And here's what I do know: when you take a house off of the MLS and you put it back on the market, it always reduces the price every single time, because people think there's something wrong with it. Oh, well, it was on the market for 6 months or 3 months and didn't sell, and then they got a buyer and that buyer couldn't get through. There must be something wrong with the house. So I'm not going to pay $189,000. I'm going to put an offer in at $160, because there must be something wrong with the house, because the deal didn't go through. When really all was wrong with the house is the seller didn't know how to do due diligence with the realtor, and the realtor didn't know how to do it, or they didn't care, right? Because the realtor wants to make you feel good that they got a contract for you and make them feel like they're earning their money, right?
Yep.
And it's just done incorrectly because the due diligence stage was not done correctly.
Yep.
Okay. All right, Peter, we're out of time. How'd we do today? We did a lot of chit chat in there, and we spent an extra 10 minutes, but we always seem to do that. So I'm glad we did it today.
No, it's important stuff. It's very important. Here's my 30-second 2 cents. A very good friend of mine, young gal at university right up the street here, could not keep up with all the work because she worked a full-time job and couldn't read 6 chapters tonight for a test tomorrow. And what she did was she read the glossary at the back of the book, studied the glossary, didn't read the chapters, got the highest mark in the whole class because she understood what the questions and answers must be from understanding what it was all about from the glossary. That's how powerful what you're talking about is today.
You never told me that. That's an interesting story. That's awesome.
You know, our little friend Jessica.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Totally.
Nice. Clever.
Yeah.
All right, good. So next week we're going to finish this up with part 3, episode number 240. Make sure you go leave us a review. Make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to us. Thank you for being here today. Make sure you click on the link in your description to get the free stuff because there's plenty of free stuff there for you. And of course, if there's any questions or any contrary information that I feel like you feel like I've given you today, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side is a support ticket. They come right to me these days, so just send us a support ticket and I will answer it. Okay? Again, thanks for being with us. Over and out. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to the hottest real estate topics on the planet with Bill and Pete. If you want to continue learning how to buy and sell real estate without money or credit, head over to flippinghouses.club for some cutting-edge real estate wealth tools. Or contact us at info@flippinghouses.club.